A method actor told Clint Eastwood, "I can't rush my artistic process," after arriving late for the third day of shooting. What Clint did next in front of the whole crew quickly became legendary in Hollywood. It was October 1992 on the remote Alberta Badlands set of Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood was both directing and starring in what would turn out to be one of his most celebrated films, a revisionist western that would earn 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. The production was disciplined, organized, and slightly ahead of schedule, exactly the way Clint liked it. He had built his reputation as a director who respected budgets, valued the crew's time, and completed films efficiently without compromising quality. His sets were known for being professional, focused, and drama-free. Then came a new addition, someone we'll call Derek Matthews. Matthews was a respected stage actor from New York who had recently impressed critics with a powerful off-Broadway performance. He had trained at top acting programs, studied various method techniques, and took his craft very seriously. His agent had lobbied hard to secure him a supporting role in Clint's film, a key character with several important scenes. Clint's casting director had her doubts. "He's talented," she said, "but he's known for being difficult, extremely methodical, very particular about his process." "How difficult?" Clint asked. "He once lived homeless for 3 months to prepare for a role. Refuses to break character between takes, that sort of thing." Clint thought it over. He admired actors dedicated to their craft, but he also knew there was a line between commitment and indulgence. He decided to hire him, but made it clear how the set operated. Matthews signed the contract, arrived in Alberta, and began attending the first production meeting began. Clint laid out his expectations clearly. 6 o'clock AM call times when scheduled, professionalism on set, efficiency, and focus during shooting. The crew worked hard, and Clint expected the actors to match that energy. Matthews nodded throughout the meeting, but seemed distracted, as if the logistics of filmmaking were beneath him. He was here to create art, not punch a time clock. Matthews' first scheduled day of shooting was a Monday, with the AM call time. The location was a remote ranch about an hour from base camp, and the morning light was crucial for the scene. At 6 o'clock AM, the crew was ready. Cameras were positioned perfectly for the shot, lights set to capture the golden morning glow. Other actors were already in costume and makeup. Having been in the chair since 5 o'clock AM, Clint sat in his director's chair, reviewing the shot list and mentally rehearsing the day's work. The entire production was oiled and ready to go, but Derek Matthews' trailer door remained closed, dark and silent. At 6:30, the first assistant director knocked politely. No answer. At 6:45, he knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. The crew began shifting uncomfortably, checking watches, whispering. This wasn't how Clint Eastwood sets operated. By 7 o'clock AM, after repeated attempts, Matthews finally opened the door. Still in street clothes, hair uncombed, he looked genuinely annoyed at being disturbed rather than embarrassed for being late. "I'm preparing," Matthews said, his tone suggesting the ad was interrupting something sacred. "My process requires deep internal work before I can inhabit the character. This can't be rushed. This isn't a sitcom where you just put on a costume and deliver lines. This is serious acting." The ad explained that the crew was losing the morning light they had been waiting for. "Art doesn't work on a schedule," Matthews replied, closing the door. Clint, informed of the situation, Clint made his decision. "We'll shoot around him." Moved to scene 14, the crew quickly repositioned for a different scene, losing valuable time and the perfect morning light they had specifically scheduled for Matthews' scene. By the time Matthews finally emerged at 8:30 AM, ready to work, they had already lost 2.5 hours. Clint said nothing. He simply adjusted the shooting schedule, got Matthews through his scenes efficiently, and moved on. But he was watching closely the second day Matthews was scheduled. The call time was again 6 o'clock AM, for the same crucial reasons. Same remote location, an hour's drive from base camp. A different scene, but equally dependent on morning light. Same 75 crew members who had been up since 4:30 AM to be ready on time. At 6 o'clock AM, Matthews' trailer was dark and silent. By 6:30, still nothing. The crew was starting to show visible frustration. Yesterday had been difficult enough, but now a pattern was emerging. At 7 o'clock AM, the ad knocked, this time with noticeably less patience. Matthews answered, wearing a bathrobe and sipping coffee, as if he were on vacation. "I told you yesterday," Matthews said, irritation clear in his voice, as if the ad were the problem. "My artistic process requires time. I need to meditate, center myself, find the character's emotional truth. This isn't television where you just show up and hit marks. This is cinema. This is art. We have 75 people waiting. The ad reminded him carefully. Then they'll learn patience. Matthews replied. Great performances can't be manufactured on an assembly line. He finally appeared at 8:45 am, over 2.5 hours late again. When the ad explained that his scene would have to be skipped and shot later, losing another perfect lighting window, Matthews simply shrugged. If the light isn't right, the light isn't right, he said, as if this excused his lateness rather than caused it. Clint observed the entire situation from his director's chair. Clint said nothing to Matthews. He simply adjusted the schedule again, filmed what they could, and took note of the pattern forming. That evening, Clint's producer approached him. We need to talk about Matthews. 2 days, 2 major delays. We're losing both budget and schedule. I'm aware, Clint replied. Should we warn him? Threaten to fire him? No threats, Clint said. 1 more day. Let's see if this is really who he is. The third day Matthews was scheduled was critical. It was his biggest scene, a dramatic confrontation requiring precise timing with the other actors, complex camera movements, and very specific natural light, available for maybe 90 minutes at most. Extra crew had been scheduled, additional equipment brought in, and multiple departments coordinated around this shoot. Call time, 6 o'clock sharp. By 5:45 am. The crew was fully prepared. Actors in position, cameras ready, lights set, sound rolling, everyone waiting for Derek Matthews. At 6 o'clock am, his trailer remained closed. At 6:15, still nothing. By 6:30, the ad knocked politely. No response. At 6:45, louder knocking. Still nothing. Clint rose from his director's chair and walked over to Matthews' trailer himself. The entire crew watched. This was unprecedented. Clint usually directed quietly from his chair, invisible and efficient. His walking across the set to personally address an actor signaled that something serious was happening. He knocked on the trailer door 3 sharp, deliberate raps that echoed across the silent set. After a long pause, Matthews opened the door. He was wearing his bathrobe again, holding a cup of tea, looking visibly annoyed by the interruption. We're ready for you, Clint said quietly. I'm preparing, Matthews replied, his tone implying that should be obvious. My artistic process can't be rushed. I need to access deep emotional memories for this scene. It takes time, Clint said calmly. It takes. What time was? Matthews began, trailing off. Your call? Clint interrupted, his voice still quiet, but carrying a sharp edge. Now ultimates are administrative convenience, Matthews said, launching into what was clearly a prepared speech about art. Real acting, serious acting, requires going to places that can't be scheduled. I'm not some television actor who hits marks and delivers lines. I'm creating a character from the inside out. That process, what time? Clint repeated, not asking now, but stating. His quiet tone somehow held more authority than shouting ever could. Was your call? Matthews blinked, caught off guard by the interruption to his rehearsed speech about artistic integrity. 6, Matthews replied, but it's 7 am, Clint said, each word deliberate and final. You're an hour late. 3rd day in a row. 75 people have been waiting for you, people who showed up on time. Despite the same early call you had, great art requires sacrifice, Matthews said, regaining his composure and launching back into his justification. Those people are being paid to wait. That's literally their job. My job is to create something transcendent, something that will last beyond this production schedule. You, of all people, should understand that real artistry can't be confined. Pack your things, Clint said, cutting through the speech like a knife. Matthews froze mid-sentence, mouth open. Excuse me. Pack your things, Clint repeated, his voice the same quiet rasp that had become legendary in westerns. You're fired. There's a car waiting to take you back to Los Angeles. You have 30 minutes to be out. The entire crew went silent. 75 people frozen, watching it all unfold. Matthews laughed, a nervous, uneasy sound. You can't fire me. We're in the middle of production. You need me for? No, Clint said simply. We need someone professional, someone who respects other people's time, someone who understands that filmmaking is collaborative. That's not you. Pack your things. This is insane, Matthews said, his voice rising now. I'm creating art here. I'm giving you the performance of a lifetime. You can't fire someone for taking their craft seriously. I'm not firing you for taking your craft seriously, Clint said calmly. I am firing you for being late 3 days in a row and showing no respect for the 75 professionals who've been waiting while you drank tea in your bathrobe. My process? Matthews asked incredulously. Your process? Clint interrupted. It involves being on set when you're supposed to be on set. If you can't do that, you can't work here. Pack your things. Matthews looked around at the crew, perhaps expecting support or sympathy. He found none. 75 people, up since 4:30 a.m., having driven an hour to get here and standing ready for over an hour. Simply stared back at him without a shred of sympathy. You're making a huge mistake, Matthews said to Clint. I'm the best actor you'll ever work with. You're letting ego destroy 30 minutes. Clint cut him off. Then he turned and walked back to his director's chair. Matthews lingered in his trailer doorway for a moment longer, apparently waiting for Clint to change his mind, or for someone to intervene. Neither happened. Finally, he went back inside and slammed the door. Clint turned to his first ad. Call the actor we screen tested who came in second. See if he can be here tomorrow. Reschedule Matthews' scenes for next week. Then he addressed the crew. We're moving to scene 22. Let's not waste the morning. The crew sprang into action, reorganizing for a different scene, grateful to finally be working instead of waiting. Several crew members smiled. A few tried not to laugh. Within 25 minutes, Derek Matthews emerged from his trailer with his bags. Matthews emerged looking furious. A production van was waiting to take him back to Los Angeles. He climbed in without speaking to anyone and drove off. Clint didn't watch him leave. He was already focused on the next shot. The story spread through Hollywood before Matthews' van even reached the airport. Clint Eastwood firing an actor for being late, while citing artistic process, became the talk of the industry within hours. By the next day, it was in the trades. Matthews' agent tried to spin it as creative differences or scheduling conflicts, but too many crew members had seen what really happened. The truth came out. Matthews had been fired for being unprofessional and hiding behind artistic process as an excuse. The impact on Matthews' career was immediate and severe. Directors who had considered him suddenly lost interest. Producers asked pointed questions about his reliability. Studios quietly marked him as a difficult actor. Within a year, he was back performing in regional theater. The promising film career his agent had worked so hard to build was completely derailed by 3 late arrivals and 1 conversation with Clint Eastwood. The actor Clint, hired to replace Matthews, arrived 15 minutes early every day. He knew his lines perfectly and delivered a strong performance that contributed to the film's eventual success. Unforgiven went on to win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director and Best Picture. It is now regarded as one of the greatest westerns ever made. Derek Matthews is remembered, if at all, as the actor who was fired from Unforgiven for showing up late and lecturing Clint Eastwood about artistic process. Years later, in an interview about directing, Clint was asked about the incident. His response was characteristically brief. Film sets require discipline, not because of some authoritarian philosophy, but because hundreds of people are coordinating complex work. When one person decides their process is more important than everyone else's time, they're not an artist, they're just selfish. Crew members who were there provide more detail. They talk about 75 people standing ready at 6 o'clock a.m., losing perfect morning light 3 days in a row, and Matthews dismissing their time as unimportant while meditating in his bathrobe. They remember how Clint's firing wasn't angry or dramatic. It was calm, matter of fact, delivered in that quiet voice he brought to every directing decision. Pack your things. Car waiting. 30 minutes. The incident became legendary not because it was loud or theatrical, but because it was the opposite. Clint simply drew a line. Professionalism matters. Your time doesn't matter more than 75 other people's. Art doesn't excuse disrespect. To this day, artistic process can't be rushed is a phrase you don't want to use on a Clint Eastwood set. Showing up late while everyone else is ready is a career mistake you only get to make once. If this story of accountability and respect resonated with you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that talent doesn't excuse unprofessionalism and real artists respect the people they work with. Have you ever seen someone confuse self-indulgence with dedication? Share your story in the comments.